One practice in and John Mateer is already making believers out of everybody.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel over there on YouTube, covering all the college football and more Oklahoma Sooners coverage over there. You can follow me at John9Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. On today's show, Jay has an exclusive with Brett Ciancia of Pick Six Previews to talk about Oklahoma and the 2025 season. Where might they land in the SEC standings throughout the year? We're also going to discuss the guys that, hey, it's about time that you showed up. It's about time you had your breakout coming up in the second segment. But we got to start with this. Fall camp is here. Oklahoma had their first practice of the camp season on Thursday. Sorry. Yep. My brain has been all messed up with the kids out of school. It was Thursday they had their first practice. And Jay, we already saw some impressive highlights. One in which already has Josh Pate ready to say some inappropriate things, make some bold claims about the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, we're at the point now. It's we're propaganda season, which is awesome. Elite weigh-in was on Wednesday, and they had the media piece.
That, by the way, like
the elite weigh-in.
Yes, so it's like so much fun.
Yeah, they were having a blast. And so Thursday morning, you get the video of them running out there and just losing their minds to do the weigh-in because they're excited to see the work they put in from January all the way to now and see the accumulation of everything now populating right in front of them. So that's what makes me excited about how Elite Weigh-In goes. It's you're making a big deal of the work you did in the past to get you to where you are today. So we'll probably have that official number of weights and everything for everybody sometime probably at the end of August, right before the actual season starts. So once we get that, of course, we'll do a breakdown of the weight changes. I'm actually going to start a breakdown over on my channel, Unfair Sports, to really break down what the weights look like. I've seen some of the weight changes from even just spring to July, and we talked about that on one episode here, John, and it's looking good. So, yeah, propaganda season. And that pass that Mateer made, Buddy's got everybody in their feels.
Just over the outstretched arms of the defender, Deion Burks makes a great catch on that. And then Kip Lewis was the other wide receiver that was celebrating with Burks. So, I mean, you're not going to be able to take anything away from these. It's super fun to watch them. But what can we see in that? Okay. John Mateer, Deion Burks have a nice connection. John Mateer trusts Deion Burks. I think we saw that in several different highlight clips. Kip Lewis getting some first-team run at wide receiver on the outside. Of course, Javonte Gibson's still working his way back. So that's going to be something to keep track of, or at least keep note of, is Kip Lewis out there running with the ones. The other highlight video that they showed was Kip Lewis getting an interception. Well, our guy, Reggie Powers III, broke up the pass that I think was intended for Jaren Kanak, actually. And then Lewis gets the interception. Robert Spears-Jennings already celebrating before the ball is in his hands. Like, awesome.
Yeah, it's fun to see. You saw Amarion Robinson in one of the videos where he was there on a breakup of a pass or whatnot too, and I was like, "Ooh, is that man? Okay, got a true freshman out there getting some reps and making some happen." Hey, look, I'm excited just the fact that it feels like our level of depth is getting deeper and deeper. And we're getting more and more comfortable with the dudes that we've brought in. That's the one thing I've actually seen with when it comes to other teams or whatnot is one of the things you notice is the reason why you go into the portal is you're going after players to be able to fill up certain areas that you know that you need some additional assistance. Sometimes you need more seasoning. Sometimes you need more bodies. And the one thing we've noticed about this team is, and this staff is, Brent Venables and all of his coaches, you can tell they really like the players that they recruited. And so you don't see us just going that crazy when it comes to getting transfers. But you will see us bring in a senior, right? A player that's going to be gone after about a year. Occasionally, you may grab we grabbed depth spots at wide receiver because we desperately needed it with so many players leaving. But a lot of the times, we're bringing in players that are gone within a year. And it's like, okay, you really are just filling this to make sure that the young pups are ready to play. Seeing an Amarion Robinson get some reps and see him in some of these propaganda videos makes me feel good about the way that we're recruiting and the direction that we're going with the program.
Well, you look at secondary was kind of the one spot that they didn't add anybody in the transfer portal.
They didn't.
Depending on how you want to look at Kendall Daniels. Is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? They didn't add a corner in the transfer portal. They didn't add a guy that's definitively a safety. Kendall Daniels could probably play both roles. It seems like they're slotting him in more cheetah linebacker than they are at safety. That's kind of encouraging. And that's really intriguing for sure, because they added a defensive lineman in the portal and they added a guy like Kendall Daniels at linebacker in the portal. And then obviously on the offensive side of the ball, it's a complete retool through the portal. But as you mentioned, not a lot of guys that are progress stoppers, because you want those guys like an Eddie Pierre-Louis. You want him to go take a job, but you also don't necessarily want to hand it to him. You want to have competition for him, and they've got competition, whether it's Heath Ozida or a Jake Michaela coming in the spring portal. You want competition for a guy like Jacob Sexton, Jake Taylor, and that's why you added Derek Simmons and a Luke Baklenko. You want these guys to have to battle for jobs, and they are, and they're going to have the best guys out there, and they're going to play the best guys. And I think some of it will come down to familiarity with the offense, familiarity with the team, the work ethic, the trust, things like that. But Brent Venables just doesn't want to hand a guy a gig. He wants them to go out there and earn it. And he talked about how there's competition across the board. And I know competitive depth was the catchphrase of 2 seasons ago, and it paid off where they went 10-2 during the regular season. You'd have liked to get those wins against Oklahoma State and Kansas, but your linebacker depth was just really, really young.
Yeah.
If anything, that's kind of where you're at safety now, is beyond Robert Spears-Jennings and Peyton Bowen, you're kind of young. At corner, beyond Gentry Williams and Jacoby Johnson, you're kind of young. Kendall Dolby, if you want to throw that in there as well. So maybe those are some spots where, okay, you got to have some good luck on the injury front, but the other part that stood out from the elite weigh-in, Eddie Pierre-Louis, my goodness.
That's a big boy.
If he has the offense down, it would not shock me if he's on an SEC all-conference team at the end of the year, because we know the dude can move. We know he's strong, and we know he's nasty.
Yeah, you might get all of that from him. And to your point of the youth, with especially in 23 with the linebackers, yeah, that was a young Kip, young Kobe, really a whole bunch of young linebackers there, and really was just Danny really trying to run things. But the good thing with that safety room, that trio that we're super high on, they played some good snaps last year. We actually saw them go out there in some good moments. And so to me, you feel even more comfortable with them playing this year in comparison, because Peyton Bowen, of course, with Robert Spears-Jennings, they've had years together. They're, part of the 22 and the 23 class. Those other dudes, they're ready to step in and play immediately because they've seen the snaps. We didn't have that last time. So yeah, to your point, you can tell, like I said, the staff is good to see. The staff really likes their guys. But yeah, EPL look good. If he got the playbook down, man, I ain't got no concerns on the offensive line. Like, I think that left guard's going to be good. I think that Sexton's going to be solid at tackle now that he's only playing tackle. Because honestly, I still feel good about Heath Ozida playing at left guard as well. So we finally have 2 deep, and we're comfortable with it because we got to see when they were healthy, they looked good. The Missouri game, they looked good even after the Alabama game. You just had to figure out how to make the offense do something. That was really it.
Yep. Yeah, your defense gave you a win again, and the offense gave it away. So anyway, it's hype season. Listen, this team's got a lot to prove still.
Gas them up.
We think that they're going to be good. Don't mistake us. But also, I feel like, hey, you go out there and you prove it against Michigan, and you're going to buy a lot of believers. We talked about it in yesterday's episode that, 80% of the people that voted in a poll over on YouTube believe Oklahoma goes 9-3 or better.
Just do it.
Just do
Nike.
It. Yep, just do it. Who are some of the about time guys? Where have you been? Players that we need to discuss that are ready to break out and have big seasons for Oklahoma. Coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. When I'm on top of my hydration, I notice everything works better. My energy, my mood, my focus, even my skin. But getting enough fluids every day isn't always easy. That's why I've been loving Drip Drop. Drip Drop is doctor developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. I love the fruit punch. That's always been one of my favorite flavors when it comes to sport drinks. And because I drink a lot of coffee, like I love coffee, sometimes I'm a little bit dehydrated and I'm not getting enough water in necessarily. Going to Drip Drop has really changed my hydration. It's helped me feel refreshed, feel better as I work, my full-time job, plus work the side hustles with Locked On Sooners and Sooners Wire. I'm just not always taking care of my body, but Drip Drop makes sure I have that hydration in place and making me feel so much better, especially during this summer heat that we've got going on in Oklahoma. So you got to go check out Drip Drop right now. Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use promo code Locked On College. That's dripdrop.com. Promo code Locked On College for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard at dripdrop.com. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, before we get to our About Time Players of the Week, let's run through a couple fan feelings here. We're going to start doing this as a weekly part of the show where you're going to supply what you're feeling as we go through the regular season, as we go through fall camp. Let's start here with one of our everydayers here, Robert. He says, excited to see first and foremost if the overhaul on the offensive side of the ball will pay dividends barring injury.
I love that you put the caveat of barring injuries in there. And for you fans, please, we're going to do this every Friday. This will be a part of the show. We want you to tell us how you're feeling, especially about the propaganda that's coming out. Mm-hmm. As the propaganda comes out, as the more details come out, as the updates come out, let us know how you're feeling. Every Friday, we'll go through them. We'll filter through and see what they see, how you're feeling, and be able to talk about it. But, Robert, you're 100% right. That's where we both are. Me and John are both thinking that. I know I can speak for both of us on that is we want to see what this overhaul looks like. Luckily, I was actually talking to somebody else not too long ago about this, is that you're bringing in an offensive coordinator that West Texas that has a, air raid-ish type setup, right? Comes from that tree. Bill Beatonbow is used to a system like that. He's coaching a system like that for years, so he's comfortable. Same thing with Emmett Jones. So really the two positions where you had struggles, both of those coaches have coached underneath other coaches that have ran systems like that. Remember, Emmett Jones was at Tech, right, mm-hmm. for a bit. You've had, Bill Beatonbow, not only on the Lincoln Riley, spent time in Indiana. He's been around. Seth Luttrell technically ran more of an air raid system before he came here when he's down there in North Texas, because he had an air raid offensive coordinator there too. So you've got these coaches that are used to these type of systems that can be adjusted based upon personnel. That, to me, makes it a lot easier for us to be able to adjust and go. So the overhaul, I'm really excited to see too.
Yeah, this one right here from King Key 9805. If the OL has improved, which would be nearly impossible not to, giving up 50 sacks, and John Mateer doesn't turn the football over nearly as often, this team should be competing for a playoff spot. I think King Key is right on that. Put your crown on, my man.
Yeah, put it on. And when I talk to Brett Ciancia, he'll kind of explain to you the path of Oklahoma potentially going there. So, hey, it can. The thing about it is the giving up 50 sacks is, and you get that when you have a lot of combinations of offensive line play because you're dealing with injuries. Good thing is you're not playing a whole bunch of young players anymore. You're playing guys that have actually gotten their butt kicked in the SEC and they understand what to do to be better.
and you give up 50 sacks when you have an indecisive quarterback.
Fair point.
And as much, listen, offensive line play matters in pressure and sacks, but sacks are a quarterback stat.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the quarterback has a bigger role to play in avoiding sacks. Get rid of the football, check out of a play, adjust your protection. The quarterback can control so much more than what the offensive line can, because he has control over the offense. And a lot of times it's just be decisive, get the ball out, especially when you know you've got an offensive line that just isn't necessarily as good as it needs to be. So if the offensive line is improved, yeah, this team is going to win 9 games or more. I haven't made my official prediction yet, or more, and they're going to contend for a playoff spot. Here's the last one here. This one's coming from Brent Chapman. Again, another everydayer dropping his fan feelings, hoping for the same feeling this year as we had in 2000 as they climbed up the polls towards earning a national championship.
I like that. That to me feels consistent with where I think we should be as well. Let's start. We're starting in the middle. I think we're 20-ish again.
Yeah.
That's the back
20 to 25. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that will help us to be able to get to the point of, if we're going to compete for a title, that's a good spot to be at. I think
Oklahoma fans do not mind being in the underdog role.
No.
Oklahoma fans, they kind of relish being written off. They relish being overlooked because it allows you to just sneak up and surprise and impress and pave your own way, right? That's kind of an Oklahoma way. Like it's in the DNA a little bit of Oklahomans where you're just going to make your own way.
Yeah, and we kind of need to do that too. We just need to prove to
everybody it's a whole new world for Oklahoma. You're second year in the SEC. You've got a new offensive coordinator. Brent Venables taking back the defensive play calling. Go make your way. All right. It's about time for the About Time Players of the Week. Jay, who is your About Time Player of the Week this week?
So when I'm looking at the propaganda come out, and when I propose this to John for a topic, it's more of a, what player do we think it's time for them to now, it's about time for you to be somebody that we're relying on, someone that we're thinking about, someone that we feel like you need to break out, period, right? So for me, it took me a bit to really think about it, but and I was talking to somebody else about this exact same thing. So, John, as I say this, others may have heard this before, but I think it's Peyton Bowen for me. Now, there's a caveat behind the Peyton Bowen decision to me, is because Peyton was behind Billy Bowman. He, in a way, we thought about him as someone that needs to break out, while at the same time we understood because he wasn't going to start over Billy. Billy was just too much of the heart and soul of that secondary and was a leader, in which, it looks like he's probably going to start at nickel for the Falcons right now. That tells you everything about how good the kid is, even if you try to doubt him. But now it's his. Robert Spears-Jennings is going to, of course, still be that free safety. He took his spot. He showed his about time last season and said, I'm going to go ahead and run this bad boy. Now it's time for Peyton to give us that same thing. And I truly believe that this is now or never for him. If he says his toe's healthy, great. Show us.
Yeah, the time is now, because you've got some young, impressive, promising safeties right behind you ready to take a job if you're not ready to be a full-time starter. So it's time. Same with a guy like Jacob Sexton, and that's who I'm kind of looking at. He feels the best he's felt. He's more flexible. He's more physical. Troy Everett was talking about how strong he is right now. And that's a guy that he was a 4-star prospect in the 2022 recruiting class, just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And behind him on the depth chart, you've got Logan Howland, who played 500 snaps for you last year, coming in well before he was ready to do so against a really good Ole Miss defensive front. Had some ups and downs, got better as the season went along. That's a guy that will push Jacob Sexton if he's not ready to solidify that left tackle spot. Michael Fasusi as well. Michael Fasusi has done nothing but impress everybody in Norman this offseason. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the guy's going to start at any point during the regular season, but if it's not this year, he's going to start next year.
Yeah.
Brent Venables has been impressed with his maturity and his work ethic and the technique and the talent.
Respect
So
technique.
Jacob Sexton, man, there is actual pressure on you. If you're going to be the starting left tackle, you got to hold it down. There can't be roller coasters. There can't be up and downs. You've got to solidify that spot, protecting John Mateer's blind side, providing some veteran experience next to what we presume to be Eddie Pierre-Louis at left guard. You've got to lock it down. Now's the time for you to do that. And I think he's going to. I think he's going to have that breakout year that we've been hoping to see for the last couple of years. So that's it. Those are our about time players that we're looking at this week. We'll discuss more next week. We'll also go through more of your fan feelings. We'll put that post out there on the YouTube side of things sometime middle of next week, just to get everybody's feelings from what happened in the last week with Oklahoma football. But coming up next is Jay's interview with Brett Ciancia of Pick Six Previews, breaking down the Oklahoma Sooners for the 2025 football season. Make sure you stick around for that here on Locked On Sooners.
We've all been there, logged in early, waiting for a concert that you've been wanting to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. Well, that's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices drop actually as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off their killer last minute deals. Like for me, I always look at the zone deals whenever I was looking at the NBA finals. I looked at the zone deals and saw some great seats and some great prices. I was actually looking at some for in Vegas when I'm there in October for work. Maybe I can hit the concert out there. And I know that as soon as it gets closer to that time, those deals are going to be rocking. Plus, the app shows you a panoramic seat view. So there are no surprises, and I know exactly where I'm going to be sitting. So take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, Locked On Sooner fans, we've got a special guest on with us today. We have Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Previews. Awesome book. A great book to preview for the season. Also a Heisman voter. Joining us today, Brett. How you doing?
Hey, Jay. Thanks for having me on. Doing great. It's a busy time of year here with Pick Six Previews. We got the magazine shipping out and making the radio tour. But, yeah, really glad to be on talking Oklahoma with you and excited to break it down.
I appreciate that. So we're going to start with some easy stuff. I'm looking through the book, and you have your 5-year recruiting average, and that has Oklahoma set as a top 10 team within that 5-year period of talent. And so kind of going to put you on the spot here to start. Is there a path to you in your mind that Oklahoma could win 10 games this season?
It's definitely possible. I have Oklahoma rated as a top 15 team in the country. I've got them number 14 overall. A lot of that is because of what they brought in on offense from the transfer portal, a quarterback with John Mateer. They're starting over at coordinator, and I like that move. Ben Arbuckle is a coordinator that has had success everywhere he's been so far. A young guy, but still has a good resume there so far. So talent-wise, I really like it. But the catch with Oklahoma this year is it's out of their control. It's the schedule draw. And it happened last year. They got a tough SEC welcome gift, but it reverses again this year, the same opponents. So if you're looking at this schedule, I see 7, maybe even 8 top 25 opponents. That's just brutal to deal a team. So I think it's Brent Venables' best team yet. It's also his hardest schedule yet. But if you're going through it, there's a way that they can get to 10 wins. They're going to have to win all their 50-50 games, maybe steal a couple, but it's doable. There's enough talent here to do it.
Love to hear that. And so when we look at your here in the mag, you talk about in 10-year Oklahoma top offenses. You had Oklahoma up there as number 2. Of course, that included the era with Bob Stoops as well as Lincoln Riley and going into now. And last year, Oklahoma had a historically bad offense. And so with the additions on offense, what does your data say about Oklahoma on the offensive side of the ball? And how many wins do you think this offense could generate in comparison to how they performed last year?
Yeah, well, it was interesting to see. It was strange to see an Oklahoma offense playing that poorly. I mean, most of the time that I've been doing Pick Six previews, I launched in 2012. That's covering some of the best offenses, not only at Oklahoma, but in college football history. I mean, Heisman winners, points like crazy. So to see last year's collapse was shocking. There was a couple of pieces at play here. Number one, at quarterback, it was a freshman. It's always hard to win with that. And who knows, Jackson Arnold might go on to have a great career. It's just so hard with a freshman starting quarterback in this conference. Another thing was the offensive line was really young, a lot of new faces last year. But this is one of the best line coaches in the country, Coach Beatonbow. I really trust him. So I think it was a one-off situation last year with all those new starters. All 5 guys from 2023 departed. It was, starting from scratch last year. So at those 2 spots, I think you have upgrades and at least more veteran play, with the line now shifting over to a veteran unit. And then John Mateer, a guy coming from Washington State, with Ben Arbuckle. You get the combo package. You get coordinator and quarterback from one of the best offenses in the country. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. You watch this guy play, he's got the headband and the towel and the swagger. I mean, I don't want to call him Baker Mayfield just yet, but I mean, he has that playing style, and you know he's going to get his stats. So, so I think they upgraded at the 2 most important spots on that offense, which was quarterback and O-line. So with that, to pair that with a Brent Venables defense, I think you have something cooking here, because when you hire Venables as your head coach, you expect a strong defense, and they've had that for the most part. Last year, another top 10 unit per my numbers. You got a lot of guys back again on defense. So I think that part's fine. It's just how quickly can this new offense round into form?
So when you, as you mentioned, with John Mateer coming over with Ben Arbuckle offensively rated pretty well in your book last year from the Cam Ward year that they had, and then last season John Mateer took over and it looks like he did well. How do you think this offense with Ben Arbuckle and then John Mateer and the new pieces that they have, how do you think that they'll be able to adjust here in the SEC?
Well, it's worked for other places within the SEC. You've seen some of this pass-heavy offense really click. Think of Ole Miss and Tennessee a few years back when they were making their run. And they do balance it with some running. But thinking mostly spread offenses, tempo, that stuff has played here. The SEC originally, maybe 10 years ago, was more of that rugged under center kind of power offense during the early part of the Saban era. But it's modernized with the rest of college football, so I think it'll fit in great here. And give Oklahoma a competitive shot in a lot of games. I think you're going to at least see competent offensive play. I mean, last year was a train wreck on that side, so I think it's going to be – and also I forgot to mention this part of it too. Young offensive line, we said last year, and young quarterback. Their receiver room was so unlucky with the injuries. I mean, I think all 3 starters were knocked out by the first game or within a quarter or something crazy. Yeah. So that's just that usually doesn't happen. That's not going to happen 2 years in a row. So I like the moves that the guys they added at receiver, and should be a more competent offense overall. So I think the scheme will do just fine. He's had plenty of time to install it, and it really helps bringing your quarterback with you. I mean, imagine installing a new scheme to a whole new quarterback room, but having Mateer there, a guy familiar with it, it's almost like having a second coach right there in the QB room. So I think that's going to accelerate the growth.
Yeah, and you may mention that in the mag around Bill Beatonbow being used to this type of scheme. So your expectation is the offensive line should be able to mesh well now, especially having an additional year of experience because we played so many not only young players but dealt with so many injured players. But this is something Bill Beatonbow is used to. But you also made a good point about teams around like Ole Miss, Tennessee. One team I keep looking at that brought in a OC and quarterback was Vanderbilt. They brought in Tim Beck as well as Diego Pavia. That gets you a nice 1-2 punch. And then Diego went out there and played like a baller to help Vanderbilt get to 7 wins, something they haven't seen in a while. Then you have Jaden Au joining them. How do you feel like Ott fits in this Oklahoma scheme and system for Ben Arbuckle, and what do you think that can do for the Sooners?
Yeah, you're getting one of the top running backs in the country. Definitely one of the top running back transfers this cycle. I think he was rated number 3 by 24/7 Sports in the transfer portal. But this is a guy, if you go back a few years, he was dominant. I remember watching him on the old Pac-12 network. It was always the late game. It was Cal. And I think as a freshman, he put up a 1,000-yard season in 2022. And I think he did it again in 2023. Now, last year was cut short by an injury. That's why he was a little bit off the radar, and people might have forgotten about him a little bit. But now look back at those 22 and 23 seasons. He was dominant. And that was on a Cal team where they didn't have any passing threat to support him. So teams knew it was coming. They packed the box, and Jaden Au was still able to get his yards. So, I was already pretty high on Oklahoma, having them up in the top 15. And then this was a late spring addition to just pile in more talent into that room. So, yeah, you got a great upgrade there. In fact, in the book this year, I had to include an all-transfer team. Everyone's familiar with All-America, All-SEC, but with so much player movement, I put an all-transfer team in there. And Oklahoma's got the quarterback and the running back. You got Mateer and Ott both on there. So really an upgrade at both spots.
It's good stuff. That's a good point. Yeah. Ott it was 800 and something yards his freshman year, but it was close to 1,000. It's like 822, but he did have 1,300 his second. 2,500 yards over a 3-year period is nothing to sneeze at. We're talking with Brent Ciancia over there at Pick Six Previews. Brent, let's talk defense real quick. Expectations around the defensive side of the ball for Oklahoma. You mentioned bringing in Brent Venables, and you usually will see a top 10 defense or see a defense that will improve. And last season, in your metrics, you had them top 10. Now, losing Danny Stutzman as well as Billy Bowman and some of the edge play, some people feel like Oklahoma could fall off, but in some places I've seen that you feel like the defense should actually see an improvement with the competent offense. How do you feel about Oklahoma's defense going into this season, and kind of what you expect from them as far as possibly falling in your rankings?
Yeah, well, first look back at last year, and they were top 10 in my numbers, like we said. Number 4 rushing defense in my numbers, so they were really stout there in the trenches. They were really good at limiting opposing rushing offenses. And so we'll start there. And what I like most about the defense is that a lot of that defensive line is back. A lot of the core of this defense is back. The 4-man rotation at tackle is elite. You got Williams, Halton, Stone. Last year, a true freshman All-American, and Jaden Jackson. That's a whole 2 deep right there at defensive tackle on the interior. That looks elite. You got Thomas back at defensive end. That's an All-SEC guy, maybe even All-American caliber. So the defensive line itself makes them one of the strongest defenses in the league. And then, and then you backfill a little bit for some stars leaving in the back 7. But, just at face value, that defensive line keeps them a strength. And otherwise, sometimes you worry about when a coordinator change happens that it might disrupt the continuity. But with Venables as your head coach, it's really his defense too. So I'm not too worried about Zach Alley leaving for West Virginia. In fact, Venables brought in one of his former sidekicks, Wes Goodwin, from Clemson. So he's familiar with Venables' scheme. I don't see anything changing there. It's still Brent's defense. So overall, yeah, this was part of the logic why I was a little bit higher on Oklahoma is I think I know what I'm getting with that defense. It's going to be another top 10 unit with a lot of faces back from last year and one of the best defensive lines in the country.
Yeah, and what you having them tied for 6th in the SEC and 14th overall, it's right there knocking on the door of potential playoffs. Is there a particular game or in a particular games that you feel like Oklahoma may potentially struggle or fall in that will prevent them from being able to push into the playoffs?
Well, yeah, it's just like we said, a total gauntlet, but I'll open up. I'll see a 5-0 start. I think they're going to go and beat Michigan in Norman this year and beat Auburn there September 20th. You're going to be 4-0 leaving September. Kent State's another win. That's 5-0. So you're 5-0 heading to the State Fair, and that's going to be a battle. Everyone's high on Texas. I'm one of them. I've got them at the top of the conference, and they've had quite the track record the last couple of years. So that's going to be tough. But remember, this isn't the BCS. So you can lose a game or 2 or even 3 and still be in that discussion. I think 10-2 for Oklahoma is a playoff lock given this schedule. 9-3. I know that last year the 9-3 SECs were left out, but this is the hardest schedule I've seen in a long time. So I do think 9-3 gets you in the discussion, and based off margins of victory or close losses, that kind of thing might still make the bracket at 9-3. So if you're doing the math here, I'm seeing a 5-0 start. Got a lot of hurdles at the back half of the schedule, though. A road trip at Alabama is going to be brutal. LSU I've projected as a playoff team. I think Oklahoma can handle South Carolina and Missouri, teams I'm kind of pessimistic about, actually. So it shakes out with Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Bama, LSU. It's a bunch of tough games, but there's a path there. If everything falls their way, there's a path.
Okay, that makes sense. So I have to ask you, on what side of the fence are you on when it comes to a head coach also calling plays? You mentioned Brent Venables now taking over the play calling, and there has been like mixed feelings to me when that was kind of announced. And as you mentioned, Brent Venables is known for being really good at this. He did it at Clemson. He's this has been his thing. But I've heard analysts and I've heard fans kind of be a little worried about him making that decision. But you have other coaches in the SEC that calls plays on their side of the ball, especially on the offensive side. Where do you fall on that, and how do you feel about a head coach calling their offense or their defense?
I would say it's case by case, really, and it is kind of rare nowadays, just given all the responsibilities of a head coach. But one thing I was thinking about with this is that before this general manager era, I mean, all the recruiting, all the NIL was on the head coach's plate. So I wondered, would they even have any headspace left to do the actual play calling? But now you do at least have that general manager spot. You can maybe offload some of that pressure. But I would say, again, it's case by case. And given Venables' history as one of the best coordinators in college football, I mean, I think that's an advantage for this team to have him doing what he does best, and that is call a defense, especially if you found what we think is going to be a great offensive scheme and system and proven coordinator there that that guy can take the reins of that half of the ball. So I'm okay with it. You've seen it been successful elsewhere. Mike Leach comes to mind. He was a play caller. He called every single play at Texas Tech and Mississippi State and Washington State when he was the head coach. You see it elsewhere. I know Sarkisian likes to script up his play script as an offensive guy at Texas. I think Clark Lee at Vanderbilt comes to mind as another one that might have called the defense a little bit. So you see it. It's maybe like 5 or 10% of coaches do it. So it's rare, but I think case by case, and in this case, I would definitely take it as a positive.
Awesome. Well, this is Brent Ciancia from Pick Six Previews. I appreciate you coming on to the show with us and talking some ball.
Oh, of course, Jay. Anytime. Appreciate you having me on. Good luck, Sooners, this year. And we'll be in touch, but hopefully they ascend higher than 6th place in the SEC and make it in that bracket.
Let's hope for it.
And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Brett Ciancia over at Pick Six Previews. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on every podcast platform and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. I'm going to have an article over at Sooners Wire on Friday discussing 5 players that need to have a big camp for Oklahoma this fall. Might have already discussed a couple of those guys on this show. I'll go into a little bit further detail in that article as well. Make sure you follow the show on all of your favorite social media platforms at Locked On Sooners. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer
Sooner. We're going to the playoffs, y'all. Just want to let y'all know that.
Let's go.